Good day, and welcome to the Budding Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Bridges. In each episode, I cover my experiences, both good and bad, of being a business builder, as well as my journey through the crazy world of entrepreneurship to reach my goal of earning $10 million a year. All right. We are on episode 145 of the podcast. Today is April 26, 2024. That means it's Friday. We've made this transition successfully to 2 Fridays in a row, so that is good after years of doing Thursdays and just enjoying myself throughout the rest of the week, getting a lot more pieces done of my week, and then focus in directly here on Friday. In looking at our books this week, we are actually revisiting $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi. I've been spending a lot of time working through that again. And it's a great book. His whole series is predicated on helping people grow their business for free so that he can actually, with his wife, take you from, $1 million in profit per year, and then grow from there and scale it on up. So it's a great way for him to not only give back to the community, but also prep people to come into his ecosphere. If they've already gone through this, they already understand how he thinks, how he works. Layla, his wife, Layla Hormozi, is the CEO. She's phenomenally intelligent. And so if you ever get a chance to watch some of her videos, dig in. There's so much to learn from both of them in just a few minutes. You can learn a tremendous amount. So again, revisiting $100 Million Leads, dug into a little more of Selling You by Napoleon Hill. Really good. It's kind of unique to see how they transition from chapter to chapter, because some chapters come from completely different places and time. So different aspects of what they're doing it's going to sound different. It's going to be functionally different, and a lot of it'll pull from different places you might not have seen before. And our third book, The New Model of Selling by Jerry Acuff and Jeremy Miner. I've been spending a lot of time in the NEPQ Black Book. You can get the NEPQ Black Book for free. It's really easy to find. It's actually a very, very good process. You just get the PDF and start reading through it. It can make a big difference in how you approach your sales going forward. So looking into our quotes this week, and I didn't print it out, so I'm going to have to flip over to the other screen. My apologies. And this week, our quote is from Mark Kane, who's an author. He said, "The first step towards success is when you refuse to be a captive of the environment in which you first find yourself." Great words. And a lot of times people forget that what got you to where you are now isn't going to be what's going to get you to where you need to be. And you have to set aside the environment, in many cases, completely change your outlook on things. I don't just mean environment for your office or things like this, although that does help. But in many cases, having the ability to dig in and start to understand how things affect you and what things you want around you. Is a cluttered office going to cause a problem for you? Well, if you have clients come in, it could, right? And this is something, I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but I try to keep my office as organized as possible. Do a lot of paperwork, so things get stacked up very quickly in my office. So every weekend is clean out time. So staying aware of that. The environment, though, what we're talking about here is being captive of it. We don't want to be captive of the environment in which you first find yourself. Okay? So once again, Mark Kane, author. Digging in today into our business strategies, we're going to wrap up the customer journey mapping before we head into a new topic next week. And we talked in the past couple of weeks about the customer journey mapping. We gave some definitions and purpose. We gave some of the components that you can have in it, and I've broken it down to primarily 4 for me. But we talked about the benefits, we talked about the process itself, and then last week we did an example of a grocery store and how they might approach their customer journey map and see how things would work for them. And this week, we're going to cover a 5-member law firm and how they might build out their customer journey map. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to do it a lot faster than I did last time because we don't have to have as much focus on the process itself and try to get everything together. But we still have the same 4 phases. Preparation and research is phase 1. Mapping and analysis is phase 2. Solutions development is phase 3, and phase 4 is implementation and monitoring. So let's dig in here real quick and break down the preparation and research. We start with objectives. Now, in this case, for an imaginary law firm, we might be looking at improving client satisfaction, increasing our referrals, and streamlining the consultation process. Okay, that's one of the things that causes a lot of attorneys to spend a lot of time is they dig in consultation at the attorney level without actually having gone through the process with other people beforehand. Many times the general thinking is that you can have anybody handle this, and then the attorney is looking for conflicts of interest, strategies, things like this. It is, for many attorneys, though, a sorting process. It's sort them in or sort them out. How much they make doesn't necessarily matter, as long as at the end of the case, the person that they're working with is going to see a benefit. And many times, if you're doing something like family law, the person that's mostly involved is the child or children, right? We want to set specific goals for the mapping process, such as reducing client wait times, enhancing our communication with clients so that they aren't calling us constantly, and increasing client retention rates. Now, these all work well within the objective idea. Now, looking at personas, we're going to dig in as a second part of the preparation or research. We want to get the demographics. We want to get their legal needs. And we want to get their communication preferences. Do they prefer in-person versus phone calls versus emails? Another area of the client personas is the conducting client interviews, analyzing case data, develop accurate and representative client personas. So you want to go back and take a look at the types of cases that you've been through in order to achieve this appropriately. And then we want to gather a lot of data. We're going to look at client surveys and feedback forms, intake forms, right? Case management software, anything that can give us information that we can aggregate and roll forward in order to get a better picture of who we're dealing with. And we want to focus on gathering information about client needs, preferences, pain points, satisfaction levels. A lot of the same stuff that we did for the grocery store. And then we want to implement newer tools like better client satisfaction surveys, case management analytics. And we want software to analyze our client interactions across various touch points. We want to see how effective we are in each touch point. Because if we are unproductive in a given one, do we really want to spend that much time there? And do we want to take on a client? Now, when I'm saying we, I'm approaching this as a consultant who's working with this law firm. And I do that a lot. My clients, I really invest my time and energy into them as though I actually work for their law firm. And so now we move into phase 2, the mapping and analysis. So we want to look at the touch points within the client journey, right? The initial consultation, the document prep, the court appearances we're going to have to make, the legal advice sessions, and then always post-case follow-up. This is something that a lot of people forget to put into the category of dealing with a client is post-case. You want to make sure that you're not leaving anything left behind, and at the same time, you want to open the availability to be able to get maybe a new case or a different case further on down the road, or maybe just get a good referral on your case. So knowing that and dealing with it and preparing for it in post case is a place to do it. And you want to look at your law firm's website and your client portal, any email communications and online appointment scheduling. How are these touch points affecting what's going on, right? Then we want to plot our emotional and pain points. We want to use all this information at each touch point, and we want to understand the pain points such as the lengthy legal process, right? I mean, cases can last for years, and people's circumstances may change dramatically in the course of the start to finish of a case. Something dealing with, say, for example, property. That could take forever to get that done. It all depends on how long it takes for things to get sorted out. And then you want to look at any areas of unclear communication. If your legal fees are maybe either too high, too low, or that they need to be focused in a more, if you can get them into a fixed fee environment so you know how much that case is going to cost, and then you don't have to be returning money at the end in the retainer, and you don't have to be stewarding that money quite so closely along the way. You can move money around in different ways and provide better support for people if your pricing allows for that kind of thing. Retainers tend to not do that, so you have to be very, very, very judicious in how you make decisions. Then we are looking through the client journey. We wanted to look at any patterns, trends, common pain points. What are our client segments? What are those differences and what are those similarities between them? And we want to look for opportunities to streamline the whole legal process. We can't control what happens with a court. We can't control what happens with the judge. We can't control what happens with opposing counsel. But we can certainly improve our own ability to address those needs in advance so that there aren't so many darn surprises that are popping up, right? Because those surprises are going to decrease your overall satisfaction level. Now we move into phase 3 at this point, solutions development. We want to start looking at how are we going to think about this differently? Are we going to implement an online document submission portal? Is that part of what we want to do? Maybe we want to have virtual legal consultations. COVID taught us a lot about that, and there are now, it's actually, believe it or not, still a very important thing for some of my clients to tell people that their focus is on virtual, so they spend less time driving, less time doing all the other stuff, and they're able to be much more efficient with it, and therefore they can charge lower prices. They just are much more efficient with how they do things. And we also want to look at areas where we can educate the clients. What kind of resources can be provided to the client to help them learn for themselves so they understand more to this than just us telling them and then somebody forgetting it. Especially if they write it down, it just helps. And then, if we don't have case management software, if we don't have time tracking software, maybe we want to implement that and see how that works. Most case management software now can be done on a month-by-month basis. You don't have to buy the whole package and deal with a big server and everything else. This was something that I fought way back in 2009. I say that like it was so long ago. All of the software industry focused on having this. You had to have the servers. You had to do it yourself. You had to buy these humongously expensive software packages. And then you had to have an onboarding process, and it took a lot of time, and this, that, and the other. And now, with everything being hosted, we use Clio, TimeSolve, certain other packages all together for our clients, and we put them all in there. Everything is very easy to do. It's all pretty straightforward. Training can be done within the program, okay? So we don't have to worry too much about it. These types of case management software packages, and there's a million of them, right? And they're all good, and they're all beneficial. You just really need to kind of find the one that matches what you're looking for. Actually go through an elimination process. You want to get down to the top one or two and then find distinctions according to how you want your practice to roll. Then once we get all this together, we want to prioritize them. We want to look at feasibility, cost effectiveness. We got gardeners going on. Let me pause this for a second. And for the moment, they're gone. So let's continue. We want to look at feasibility, cost effectiveness, and potential impact on our client satisfaction. Because if that's one of our priorities, improving client satisfaction, we want to make sure that this is going to do that. We want to prioritize accordingly, according to the goals, according to the things that we want to get as objectives down the road. And then look at the law practice itself, the strategic objectives. And we want to get the things that are going to highlight the likelihood of improving the overall client experience. Once we've done that, we get a good chance of having something that is useful to us and we'll be able to be with our law practice for a period of time. And by the way, if you're looking at doing something like this, going with commercial packages that are pretty well known, that can affect who you choose to hire when you're hiring new staff, because if they have the experience with this particular package and it's a well-known package, hiring them and bringing them on is probably not much different than just having the person that was using the system before. Phase 4, we get into implementation and monitoring, and we want to look for changes, how our selected solutions and improvements affect our operations. We want to make sure we're updating our client communication protocols. How do we communicate? What do we say at different points? We might want to redesign the intake process. That's something that a lot of times I look at a law firm when I go in to take a look at them, because we focus first on bringing in new clients. The intake process is usually somewhat distorted, somewhat either too long or too short. So we want to look at that whole intake process and make sure we're capturing the kind of information that we need for the long-term success of this type of case. I recommend that people have a separate intake for the type of case they're dealing with. And a lot of people kind of go through a fly by the seat of their pants intake process. But if you have a divorce case and you have a child custody case, you can't really do intake the same way. They have different goals. So you want to make sure that those goals are in your intake process and being accounted for as you're building in your solutions and putting them all together. And then there's investing in legal technology as a whole. You want to make sure you're doing that as well. You're going to monitor that. Is it working for us? What are we having to do to tweak and adjust ourselves to make the system run better for us? If it's too much, that can be a problem. And then we want to continuously monitor our client feedback. We want to get dashboards. We want to see the KPIs. What are we doing? How are the case outcomes? How's the client outcomes? How are our operational metrics using the evaluation of effectiveness of this implemented change or these implemented changes? And then we start the iteration of the client journey map, making updates or refinements as needed to address the evolving client needs and preferences. Now, this is a small law firm we're talking about. This is what I said, 5 members. So it's very, very tiny in the sense that it's not probably a solopreneur. It's not a solo practice. It's probably a couple of attorneys, a couple of paralegals, and 1 staff member. That's generally the way that I kind of see things going. And the staff member can sometimes be replaced by a call center, and they work back and forth. So the person that's working as a staff member while they're helping the paralegals and they're getting things for the attorneys, and they're making sure that the person is comfortable when they come in for a consultation. You want to have them doing that, and the incoming calls get routed through the call center, and then as needed get directed to that person. And so if you need to replace that person, it's relatively easy. If you need to make an adjustment in your call center script, you can. You can have it route things. So your staff member is truly a staff member and not necessarily just law offices of XYZ. This is something to kind of think about if you are not a law firm, if you have a different type of a service business. You can review this one and the grocery store and kind of see the similarities and some of the minor differences. And you can use those differences and similarities to attach new meaning to how you're going through and doing what you do as you're building your customer journey map. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, get into a new topic next week, but we went through our books, the revisitation of $100 Million Leads, Selling You by Napoleon Hill, and the new model of selling. We did our quote from Mark Kane. And then our business strategy was designing a customer journey map specifically today for a 5-member law firm. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. Thank you so much for coming by. Wish you the best in your health, your wealth, your business, your family, everything about you. Take care and have a great week. We'll see you back next week for a new topic.